This program might contain strong language. If you think you may be offended, switch off now.
Help this insane, so stay sane. Come to me and save me from this wretched place. Come to me and hide me in your sacred space. Heal me with your grace. Drown, hold me in your embrace.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Watch Mojo's Inside Podcast. That was a little clip of the track Praying for Rain off of the upcoming Aria album being released by Sound Mojo. How's that project coming along, Ash?
It's coming along really fast in the last couple of weeks. For about 5-6 months, it was going very slow, too slow for my liking, but it's going really fast and it's good. The song, people seem to like the songs, and I think events in Iran made me start to release some demos before I would have liked to, but people seem to enjoy it, getting a lot of good feedback, and just one of the many things that keeps us busy here at Watch Mojo HQ.
Cool. For sure. Yeah, we've been playing some little clips from different songs at different points in the podcast. Do you want to just explain what the vision of the project is for people who might not be aware?
Yeah, sure. So last year when we did top 10 iconic Iranian songs, because we've covered so many topics and we've been running out of ideas since 2006, I went into a bit of a rabbit hole. Like, obviously, I knew a lot about the Gugushes and the Moeens and the Mahastis and all that. But I was like, wow, like Iranian classical music with like santur and lute and, the traditional instruments are like chef's kiss, like they're irreproachable. But I was like, pop music, the lyrics are super iconic. But again, like the same way I listen to certain 70s or 80s or 90s Western songs, I'm like, the production level could be elevated, the instruments could be refined. So I was like, could these lyrics work in English? And being a writer and a wordsmith, I was like, I was just in my room one night in a hotel alone. And I started to just like transcribe, translate. And then before I knew it, at 20 songs. And I was like, yeah, we could just probably release an album of songs that are really for the Western ear in pop, rock, hard rock, heavy metal, hopefully R&B, rap, and like a gamut of genres, but inspired and reimagining iconic Iranian songs. And people seem to love it. I mean, honestly, it's like, as a creator or whatever, when you read some of the feedback I've been getting, it's like you feel verklempt. You're like, wow, you're like, this is all you could ask for.
Cool.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, you've been instrumental in helping me take the concept to reality, and Joe as well. And hey, Lils, it was important for me for this not to be a personal project, like with everything else, like with Watch Mojo. So no, I've shared some of the ideas for the second and third album. Not bad, right? Like, we won't share them here, but it's interesting stuff. And in 2012, when we pivoted Watch Mojo to what it ultimately became successful for, my Gugush, my Lily, it was content that I wanted to see as a viewer. And this is where a lot of like successful creators, successful media brands stand. Whether it's Joe Rogan, the Acquired podcast, it's people that are producing something that they like and they hope others like. And then they tinker, they stay at it. And then their authenticity, their sincerity, their earnestness comes through. And then they build a community and a business, yada, yada. We've talked about this. It doesn't work the other way. Those days are over. You can't have 4 MBAs in a room saying, given the data, we will do this and build a new product. Those days are gone. And this is really a bit like the expos, public, everybody to see, very transparent. It's just the way it is. And I know a lot of people don't like that, but nobody gives a fuck. Like, the world has changed.
It's been a fun project to work on so far, and good learning
experience. Today's Olympic show, we're going to talk about how the rules have changed and some stuffy old useless people don't like that, but the world has changed.
It's interesting to see these events like the Olympics evolve as the world changes so much. And another example is the Super Bowl, which you attended last week. Our last podcast episode was about the Super Bowl, and then you attended the event. So what's your feedback on your experience?
I mean, many. Look, the Super Bowl is the biggest media sports marketing event in the biggest market in the world. So, is it a boondoggle? Is it overproduced? Yada yada. Of course, as it should be. Working on the Expos project, I was like, okay, if you're going to talk about building stadiums, building like this whole, suite of events, drink the Kool-Aid. What is it like? And it was humbling because I'm like, oh my God, San Francisco, one of the most economically active cities of the last 100 years, definitely 30, 40 years. NFL, biggest league in at least North America, arguably the world in some ways, Super Bowl, biggest event. It was an eye-opener. And again, I went because this gentleman who's been kind enough to represent me and our efforts with the Expos with MLB, as I said last week, he was like, are you in town? There's these investors that want to talk to you. And as a finance guy, I looked at their website and I knew they were not the right profile. But this was akin to a coach saying, I want you to play Sunday. All you have to do is just go in for a couple hours and watch some tape on Thursday. It's a pretty clear, you have a 2-digit IQ, you understand the mission.
Mm-hmm.
So I went knowing that, okay, I'll parlay other meetings. But the biggest thing, mind blown, and again, I'm not a religious person, but I am getting to a point where I'm like, there's a lot of coincidences here. So one sports team, I use the Seattle Seahawks example, not Seattle Seahawks, where the sister of Paul Allen, the great Paul Allen, Bill Gates' partner, very underrated gentleman, by the way, but nonetheless, she owns a team. I think she wants to sell it, but it's not them. But as an example, there are owners who own a football team, a basketball team, a cricket team. They would love the baseball team in their town, but that team is owned by like some 45-year-old hedge fund manager who's in tip-top shape. He's going to live till 225 with advances in whatever science. So they are like, well, we want to diversify and we want to own another prestige asset. We didn't know Montreal baseball was an option. You seem to be crazy enough, masochistic enough to be bringing in all these ingredients. We will gladly come at the 11th hour and take all the credit and own this team. And I'm like, I'm here for you. Use me and abuse me as you want. So it's funny. I was at this like shindig that somebody invited me, and the gentleman sitting holding court next to me was he used to work for a perfect type of owner that owns all these teams but can't buy the baseball team in his area code. We exchanged cards and I shared it on my X account and we'll hopefully chat with him. But then the craziest thing that now I'm becoming like Jesus Christ here. Like I'm a staunch believer in God.
So synchronicity that happened.
I mean, no, it's beyond that. So there is the first team that woke me up to, sports teams would be interested. Spoke to one of the VPs. He's like, come, we're busy, but please come. My boss wants to meet you, and there's other people here. At the end, I was going to leave this event. It was on the Saturday. I was like, okay, I've been here for a couple hours. I don't need, it's 1 p.m. I've had already a martini. I'm like, at this rate, if I'm here at 11, I'm dancing topless on these balls. I'm like, this is not good for anybody. This will not help the Peanut Project. But so as I'm about to leave, I'm like, let me just go sit outside in their little makeshift garden. And I sit there. I'm an introvert. I know people laugh, but I don't go up to people. I just sit there. This gentleman comes with his wife and their friends, and he's like, are these seats taken? I'm like, no, please sit. And I go as a joke, I'm like, it starts like this, and in 10 minutes, all your friends come, and I'm going to leave. And he laughs, and I left him alone. And at some point, before I get up and leave, I'm like, what brings you to town? And he's like, well, for work, I'm rooting for X team because I can't root for the other team. And I'm like, this is a very interesting setup. I'm like, go on. So he's like, well, I'm basically the financial advisor to Team X. Team X is who the VP contacted me to meet their owner. So I'm not religious, but in Islam, which is, I'm technically a part of that team. It's like growing up in the Jets, family, whether you like it or not, you're rooting for them. There is this concept of Judgment Day, which I think goes back to Zoroastrianism, and there's elements of it in Judaism and Christianity. I know this is not religion's class, but it's more just about life. So there is this concept of Judgment Day, and in my life, with a lot of cock blockers in my life, just like being envious, jealous, insecure, like losers in their own right, where they should not be losers, but they are. I've always had people that like try to torpedo me when I'm not in the room. Like, well, Ash, there wasn't a 20th hijacker. Maybe you know why. Like just absurd shit about me that is not fair. And I put up with it. And clearly I'm at a level of not giving any more fucks, as you could tell. But so the day when this gentleman who owns this team, he or she, they will be like, well, who's this Ashkan fella? And his financial advisor will be in the room. His lawyers will be in the room. And whereas somebody could come out of nowhere and be like, well, don't trust this guy, or forget the city, forget the Expos, there will be a voice will be like, no. I met this guy. He's a missionary, not a prophet, but this guy is legit. This guy is sincere. I am willing to say, go for it. So not being religious, I didn't tell him this because then he's like, this guy's crazy. Then he would torpedo me. But I was at a point where as I left there and I was walking, it was like most people would have Ubered it, but I was walking to my hotel. And I was like, this Expos little thing big thing is really turning to be quite the eye-opener, And so from the Super Bowl, now we talk about the Olympics, another boondoggle. But I mean, the Expos, I'll finish here. I used to break down the likelihood into two probabilities. The probability we submit a compliant bid, and then the probability that the league would react favorably. I refuse to go above 90%. I'm actually conservative. But I did up it from 80% to 90% that we will submit a compliant bid. Bro, I got 700 days. Like we've spent 70 days on this. It's a shame. It's pathetic. There's about 10 people in this goddamn city that could have done this. They didn't do it. And it's all water under the bridge. It's not too late. You're supporting the city. It's got nothing to do with me. But it's not that hard. It's like, again, you're a pilot. The pilot is dead. You could fly this plane. I trust that you would fly it professionally, your personally pride, whatever. So it's not that big of a deal. But nonetheless, venting a little bit. The point I want to get to is the other side of the probabilities, the probability that MLB will react positively. I used to say 25%, 30%, 40%, 50%. I still do not want to go above 50%. But given all the progress, whereas likelihood to submit a bid is at 90%, and I'm being conservative, the likelihood that MLB will, in 2 years' time, look at the bid and be like, this is a winning bid, is really growing steadily, but I'm not going to go above 50% on the record because I am conservative. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yes, I want to ask you what you're going to be doing for the next 2 years as you wait for the opportunity to submit this bid, but I feel like that's a whole other conversation.
No. All I will say is we talked about sequencing, packaging, and matchmaking. The sequencing is we're going to start with 4C. We're going to start with a campus, which will have a museum to honor Montreal's past. We'll have a pavilion to showcase the best of the world to Montrealers. And there's a method to the madness because it involves partners, I know. So if we want Sony to be a partner because of the Japan factor, their studio, they could produce Willpower and all the shows. Then having a platform where they could showcase like their contributions to art, science, media, the Walkman, the PlayStation, not like as a mall to sell you these goods, but just like as a museum of pop culture, as a museum of fandom, which is what we're ultimately for, curation. But also the School of Entrepreneurship, the ACE, the Academy of and Study of Entrepreneurship. If you start building these things and you start reaching out to the city, who is a key stakeholder. I mean, if the city does not look at this favorably, it ain't going to go anywhere. But I believe that they do based on my preliminary conversations with them. But I'll land here. If you then go, oh, we also have this amazing lot of land. It's grass right now. But if you give us a team, this will become a baseball stadium. Mm-hmm. And if you don't give us a team, then there's no problem. If the CF Montreal MLS team wants to play here, great. If the Alouettes of the CFL want to play here, great. But mainly, imagine 12 events throughout the year. Real Madrid versus Paris Saint-Germain, college hockey team versus the top collegiate team from the CHL, the Maple Leafs versus the Canadiens, a baseball classic, not just Jays versus whomever. Bring Japan's team versus the top American team. And frankly, that would be an easier operation, probably more profitable, maybe generates less revenue, but less overhead. So very, very bullish. And I don't really understand any way that MLB would then look at the Montreal Peanut Project proposal any less favorably if you're like, we've already done a bunch of legwork.
Yep.
So after 75 days, it's great. My 2 lessons to people are: you have comparative advantages that you know you have, but you take for granted. Use them to help the community. And 2, there's a lot of people in this city that really don't need them. I want them. I don't need them at all. It's been proven. Like, I can't be rude about it. But I think at this point, if they're not getting behind this, they're basically snubbing their nose in Montreal, and shame on them. Let's start.
All right. Well, we are talking about the Olympics. I'll take this
Let's
opportunity.
just go like fucking break stuff in the background there.
That's
Let's
okay.
go.
Yeah,
Let's fucking go. Let's go.
Let
I'm
your
ready.
rage out in the background. Yvonne, I'll take this opportunity to introduce you, our producer, Yvonne Zapata, joining us today to talk about the Olympics. And I'll start off by asking, as somebody, a Latin American, how big of a deal is the Winter Olympics to you?
Latin American. It's like,
Hey, I'll take it. I mean,
you're not here because you're the token amigo there. Just for
I'm telling you, since last episode, it was like, oh, I have a Latin American friend. You know, we have an Latin American coworker.
What? Miguel, Rodrigo, come out here. Let's go here.
Look, it's been getting a lot of ever since Sochi, and even before that a little bit, it's been getting a lot of ground because we do have athletes there. It's not that many, but there's like 3 or 4. Mexico's always been strong, and for example, figure skating and downhill as well. We have a couple of athletes in the Paralympics, so it's been getting up there. Colombia has a few of them in there as well. So I don't know. We've been trying to get that ground, even if we don't have any snow, you know, down here, except for a couple of mountains. But other than that, it's fun. It's always great, and it's always great to see athletes. I think one of them went to the finals in figure skating. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I mean, we're covering ground over there too. So it gets excited, it gets coverage, and yeah, people watch it.
Cool. I was just interested in what Canada's medal count was, because like, we're supposed to be good at this stuff, but so far no gold medals. I don't know. That's a little disappointing, don't you think?
But a lot of personal bests and fourths, I'm sure.
Yeah, like a few bronzes.
They won this morning, right, in hockey?
Yeah, there was a hockey game this morning. Yeah, so that's, I mean, that brings up a whole other conversation that we're going to go into, is the should the Olympics be amateur athletes or professional athletes, or is it okay that there's a mix of both? It is a big draw having NHL players play in the hockey tournament. So I don't know. What's your take on that?
Who are you asking?
Let's go with you, Ash.
I mean, look, I remember vividly one of my favorite goalies in hockey early on was a lad named Sean Burke. And I want to say he played in 92 at Albertville. He definitely played in Calgary in 1988. But I think he had already kind of started playing for the Devils, I think. But when I watched Sean Burke, I was like, here's this unknown entity that like all of Canada is like riding on. And like, okay, I knew because I was like a fiend of the draft and amateur hockey, but I was like, nobody in Canada from Victoria to St. John's knows if this guy is a prodigy or like a journeyman. You knew he wasn't a journeyman because it was amateur era. But it was great that you just kind of like followed the maple leaf, or in the States, the stars and stripes. So at the root, that was my default. Sincerely, to this day, I'm like, there's a purity of, why I still like college football over the NFL. I mean, I love the NFL. Why I still, when I go see volleyball that my kids play at, I'm just like, this is pure, like, I think that's the default. But let's be honest. The 1992 NBA Dream Team, I mean, they changed the whole discourse. Seeing Mario Lemieux, seeing Martin Brodeur, seeing Wayne Gretzky. Not that he did play for Canada and should have taken that penalty in 96, but moving on. When you want to see the best when there's a major, competition, it's like, imagine if there was like a pop culture Olympics and like somehow I was like entrusted to build a team and I couldn't use my WatchMojo army. I'd be a bit like, well, wait a minute. I have this whole like list of incredibly talented, it comes to them as second nature. Why wouldn't I want to go to war with these guys? You know what I mean? So whether it's as a fan or as an organizer, but also it is business, right? I mean, I won't even share them. I was looking at the revenue generated for the Olympics. If you are these associations, and forget the US, forget the UK, forget even Canada, that may not win as much as we could or should, they do generate more revenue to then give back to athletes who have to juggle work. Have you bought groceries of late?
Yes, I have.
Have you paid rent of late?
Yep. No, that's
So
a good point.
no, why again? This is why I'm like you think you're being not you like one thinks you're being all like communist. I'm like, bro, I'm like Trotsky on steroids when it comes to this stuff. So I just feel like, okay, at the end of the day, if it puts more dollars in these associations who then put more resources, let's call it resources, into their players, and it gives fans the best, and it gives the organizers the best athletes, I think we have to balance the idealism of amateurs with just the reality that, yeah, you're asking people to forego their lives and their education. So it's fair for there to be more money in the ecosystem. And that means the pros have to be involved. Now, do I think, and I'll land here, and then Yvonne, I want to hear your opinion, and Rob, dash away. Does it mean that every sport has to go, to 11? No, because there's no pro leagues in no disrespect to, like bobsledding, But I think when it comes to hockey and in summer basketball, now there are logistics. In soccer, you're not going to get primetime Messi, who's like recovering from one injury between Champions League and another as he goes play for his 100 million. Yeah, okay, if Messi doesn't want to come, bro, I'm not offended. But I just think like the Olympics are a big business. I think that it's like the Super Bowl. It's like saying, wasn't it great when the NBA 20 years ago was not so popular and they used to play a recorded version the day after? Yeah, bro, that's gone. It's not happening. So I think like finding again, I'm also a compromise person, but I feel finding the equilibrium between in hockey, yeah, as much as I love to see Sean Burke in 92, yeah, mofo, I would have liked to see Patrick Roy in representing Canada. Like why wasn't Peak Lemieux there? Why wasn't Peak Gretzky there? Dale Howard-Chalk died, for fuck's sakes. I would have liked to see him again in a Maple Leaf. I would have liked to see peak American Modano, Roenick, all those fucking American players that I love as humans, but I hate it as a Canadian. I despise them. Fucking Modano, I love them as a player, but I would have fucking killed him if I could, right? That's who you want to see. So I think like if we're gonna have this conversation, have it, make it very romantic and John Keats poetry in the background. But I mean, realistically, I think it'll be a balance where the marquee sports where there are pros, yeah, you want to see the peak, you want to see the top of the pyramid, but then yeah, keep it very artsy fartsy for like ribbon gymnastics.
Yeah, for sure. It's a weird thing, the Olympics, because you do have these levels, and
levels.
Like yeah, exactly. You mentioned like there aren't pro leagues for a lot of the sports that are being played, and so there's a huge divide between like the most like highly paid athletes versus the lesser paid athletes. So I guess same question, Yvonne. Like, where do you stand on that versus the pros competing? Not in the same events, but like in the same atmosphere as like all of the amateurs for this this just event under the Olympics umbrella.
Yeah, I mean, like Ash mentioned, it's still a business, and the big drivers are going to be always like the big teams, right? The US, the France, Canada, the UK, and stuff like that. Those are going to be the big drivers. But ultimately, it is a global event. Ultimately, you're going to get people from the Antilles, and you're going to get people from Trinidad and Tobago who don't have that, who don't have that money, who don't have. So it is a balance that we're going to have to contend with. That we might need to see some pros in order for us to keep having the Olympics and to keep having the variety of athletes that we have. And that's where you get like the romanticism, right? That's where you get the stories and this guy came from nothing, and you get the Jamaica bobsled team, and you get these from the amateurs and the legends from the amateurs. But you're going to have to contend with the fact that you're going to have pros playing in this at the same time. There's a conversation also going on about flag football, right? It's going to be in the Summer Olympics in Los Angeles. and they're going to let NFL players play in the flag football. And there's a conversation there because the U.S. has a flag football team and league. Are they going to let them play, or is it just going to be NFL stars, or what's going to? So that's going to be a conversation to be had as it moves along. But I think the decline of the Olympics, between the scandals and the controversies and the cheating and everything like that, they do have to find a way to inject more money into the business in order to give a lot more athletes their due and their opportunity to succeed. Because at some point we don't want it to become just like elite athlete means well-funded athlete, right? And I was talking to you guys about that, the Rocky and Drago training montage from Rocky. It's like, these people have the money, but these people are also great athletes. So who do we give the opportunity to? And I think it's going to have to be that balance. Yeah.
So I'm not actually saying the following is the idea, but drafting off what Yvonne said, like in Canadian circles, we still have like the trauma of certain elite players not being taken on as fourth liners. And I get the rationale of bringing legit fourth liners, like more bruisers, checking, defensive minded. And then when the elites are not there, who could have been on that fourth line, we're like, whoa. But again, when you build a team, imagine Watch Mojo. If you had 20 guys like me, that would not be good. And if you had 20
You don't build a
guys
football team with like
Yeah.
all quarterbacks. Yeah.
No, that's it. And like I could hold the, again, I have no ego. I've played those parts and I play it in different like settings. But when you build a team, I get it. But what I'm getting at is, you could also have a hybrid where you're like, doesn't even need to be 50-50. You could have a squad for the NBA Dream Team that's half of them are the LeBrons and the whoever, and the other half are more like obscure non-pros that, again, greater good, those guys could step in and perform, right? Same thing with hockey. There's no reason why you can't have half the squad be NHL pros, but then the other half be either more juniors, but it doesn't like that.
I don't see that working. I'll be honest.
No, I'll tell you why, because then it's a whole other conversation where you're like, well, if you're going to pick a prospect who's not in the league, why wouldn't you take a Celebrini who's like 18, 19, but crushing it? You weren't going to pick him because he's young, So my point is, again, in business, in life, and Olympics is a business, it's about the compromise. It's not about the extreme, rigid, like nothing works like that. That's like politic bullshit.
Yeah, I think in those examples, I just think that there's too big of a skill gap between the pros and the amateurs to have that work, like to mix.
Oh no, but I agree with you. But the reality is, like, again, being a draft geek, the top player of the last, I mean, not every draft, but on average, the top draft pick of the last 30 years has been able. I'm not talking about Yakusov, whatever, like the big busts that with another coach. Look at Darnold. Yeah, but look at Darnold, who won. Like, it's the coaches, it's the fucking idiot coaches and the old, system. Like, so it's not the player. But what I'm getting at is the top player does generally perform well in the league, all factors being equal. So I'm not talking about some journeyman who really has no business being there, not charity. But I'm saying you could revisit the formula where, again, you're like, two lines are not literally the lines, but what represents. So six forwards are elite pros. 3 players are up-and-coming prospects that are elite. And you could have 3 players that are more like journeymen who are not, but then that doesn't make sense. So once you go through the motion, you're back to fuck it. Just put the best fucking players, regardless of age, creed, gender, association.
Yeah. I just think you risk making those players look terrible in comparison.
I agree. You're not.
I mean, to be honest, most of them are there to drive the viewership, right? To drive people into the sport. So just like in gymnastics, there's a team, right? And you build that team out of trials. Why not have trials to make the Olympic hockey team? That way you can give exactly. It's politics.
I like John Cooper, not to cut off. I love John Cooper as a human and as a coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's won so much. Who am I to? But motherfucker keeps picking his fucking players instead of other players that are more deserving. Like, at some point, it's fucking Saddam Hussein picking Uday to be a successor. Like, but I'm like, if I was like in Hockey Canada, I'd be like, yeah, fuck this bullshit. Like, we don't need your degenerate player who doesn't deserve to be there or before these other players. So again, I'm just very realistic. There's so much politics. There's so much bullshit. And you could argue that's loyalty. Like the loyalty props. But I'm just saying we have to get away from this like idealistic thing that doesn't make sense, where then the end result is, okay, so Canada athletics has half the revenue to invest in teams, and TSN's or ESPN is going to pay half to show a bunch of like amateurs, So I think, if it's an academic discussion, I think 30, 40 years ago when the genie left the bottle, you could have put in some guardrails. But I think now you have to understand that the Olympics are not this bastion of youth. It's like an orgy for professional athletes.
Well, I'm down for letting just the best
You're down
athletes,
for the professional athlete orgy.
That, and also just generally having the greatest athletes in the world compete regardless of where they come from.
I agree. Meritocracy. Yeah.
Professional orgy being another name for the athletes villa at every single Olympic.
Pretty much.
So yeah, this kind of relates also to, because we're talking about athlete performance, the cheating scandals that are kind of like attributed to the Olympics. It was big in Sochi in 2014. We had that whole Icarus thing come out of that with the doping scandals. The more entertaining one from this current Winter Olympics has been Penisgate, where some ski jumpers have been injecting certain things into their bodies to trick body scanners into allowing them to put make basically bigger suits that are more aerodynamic. I don't know exactly how that works, but it's just the latest creative method for cheating in the Olympics, which is kind of like par for the course at this stage, and relates a little bit to the Drago thing. It's like, okay, how much money are you going to be able to invest to push your athletes past their limits? Where do you guys stand on that, Yvonne?
Well, look, I think the scrutiny over the Olympics has been more and more severe, both like socially, globally, and also within like the sport itself, because even the athletes themselves are like, we can't compete in this because it always does come down to money, like research and development and tests and whatever they're putting into like athletes wherever they have the money to do so. So I think it's that, but I do think the IOC is very much under scrutiny in how much they're going to allow this to keep happening, and how many scandals will they actually survive, because it's not just the cheating, it's like a whole host of things. But do the pro athletes or elite athletes also subscribe to this type of cheating and stuff like that, because they're used to another type of rules, and their own leagues have their own type of rules and stuff like that? So how much can that live together? And I don't know, eventually I think the IOC is just going to be able to root out that, like this is almost like Formula One. Like, these are the advancement you can make. This is the limit, and we're going to be checking this limit a long time, and really being very particular about how fast people can actually go. And if somebody's like way off the scale, something's wrong, or something is not going to happen. And as the IOC and as the Olympics become more of a league format, like the NFL or the NBA or MLB or stuff like that, I think those limits are going to come in, because it's going to hurt business, and they're going to put a stopgap on what teams can do with their athletes. That's kind of like where I see this going, because they can't survive that many scandals.
Yeah, it also makes me think of a different element, because there's, as we were saying, not all of the sports are created equal. There's also those that are much more biased towards physical performance, and then those that are biased towards skill level, which you can only cheat your way so far in a skill-based sport. But something like, I don't know, speed skating or sprinting in the Summer Olympics, like those are very, very physical, and you can juice yourself into a gold medal if you try hard enough in some circumstances. What do you think, Ash, about the concept of having a completely different tournament or some sort of sporting event that where all the boundaries are off. Like PEDs are legal. You can do as much as you want. You call it the enhanced Olympics.
Well, I think this was actually put forth a couple of years ago, where it was like you could juice up all you want. Look, I know you want to keep this light. What is the one area where I'm not staunchly pandering to the LGBTQ movement, which I'm an ally of, is trans women in sports. Because there, the trans woman is not the underdog. You know, if tomorrow I identify as Ashkanita and I want to play soccer with a bunch of ladies, I'm going to kill them, right? So to me, that's the only reason I draw the line. And I used to say, well, before having trans women in women's sports, again, like, don't be offended. If you're offended, debate me. But, you know, just like, seriously, like, to me, this is common sense that, like, I think society has lost their fucking marbles. I was like, why not have the trans sports? I would watch the trans sports. I would fucking totally watch the trans sports. Like, then it would be fair. So I understand why somebody actually put forth that, where it's like the juiced up sports, right? Mm-hmm. Some entrepreneurial soul was like, I'm not bringing back the Expos. I'm going to do the juiced up sports. I don't know if that would do well, but despite me, pursuing MLB for a team, I mean, the baseball went through the juiced up period. You know, like, I was young at the time. I was a bit naive. But I don't think any objective person goes that Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, and many others were not allegedly enhanced in their performance. And the reality was, it was one of the best storylines of baseball history. It actually
at the time. Don't you think it tarnished all those players' careers?
What have I always said? The truth is not black or white. It's gray. Mm-hmm. It's both. Right? It's both tarnished it with the passage of time and the doubt there. But it also added storylines. Like, I'm not defending it. Again, as a historian, I'm like describing World War II, or, you know, it's not, oh, you're a Bolshevik, you're a fan of the revolution. No, I'm telling you why the fuck Stalin and Lenin and Trotsky prevailed, right? So to your point, let's go a level higher. We live in a world where my racket business has been amplified and fakeified with venture capital. So a lot of bullshit businesses that should not be in business, they're propped up for decades, competing with real entrepreneurs that hustle, that are serving stakeholders, that are creating value, that are generating revenue and profits. We get washed away by these fucking losers who just come here to party as entrepreneurs, to raise money, to screw their shareholders, and they'll go raise more money. So as a real entrepreneur, I say, fuck those people, right? As an athlete, I would never do drugs. I out-hustled everybody. I would not tolerate it. Mm-hmm. But we also live in a world where we cover pop culture and geek culture. Where would entertainment be without CGI? You tell me, right? Where would it be?
It wouldn't be where it is today.
I
think it's an apples and oranges type thing, though.
But let me just do two more examples, and then tell me if I'm crazy or I'm so saying that it blew your mind. Where would publishing of books be without Microsoft Word? You still want to write a fucking book on a typewriter? I know in the movies we see the screenwriter on a typewriter. I mean, I've written screenplays. If I had to do it on a typewriter, this letter opener is going in one or two holes. This one
I think you can talk about that.
I'll land here. So what I'm saying is, I'm obviously not for doping. I'm really not for doping. Let's just be very clear. But I'm saying, once you start to introduce the diets and the workout regimens, and frankly, athletes just being able to be athletes and not working, I understand why, if you're at the peak and you want to be the guy that represents Canada and you are the Canadian decision maker to pick an athlete, I'm not condoning it, but I understand why Mark McGwire was doping. I'm not condoning it, but I understand what transpired there, right?
Because the view is that it's just the next level of that progression that's already happened.
Where do you draw the line? Now, in life, you always push things and then you burn yourself. When I cook, I don't seek out to be like third-degree burns, but invariably, every time I'm cooking, I push, and then I'm like, oh, motherfucker. And then my wife's like, are you okay? I'm like, oh, I love you, I'm fine. But I'm burning because I pushed the envelope. So I don't think like we should be holier than thou. Yes, as humans, we understand it's wrong. But if the stakes are higher and it's not amateur, like everything we've covered, and it is professional and there's more money involved and more money begets more money, why are we surprised that people are injecting themselves, pushing the envelope? And also, You get athletes that lose their entire life because they took Sudafed, because they're congested, because they were on an 18-hour flight. But then you have others who are injecting horse steroids in their balls because that gets like not detected. But we don't catch the ball guy. But the poor gal who took a Sudafed on the flight, she's like banned and loses everything.
Well,
so I'm not for your free-for-all games, but I'm like, I think everybody is a bit in la la land about what is actually happening.
But that's where I think the distinction is, because those people sneaking.
Let me go take this out. I'm kidding.
Sure, people sneaking, like taking the sneaky route and like trying to get one up over their peers is a completely different thing from the now we're using CGI for movies and everything like that. I equate to like the equipment that everyone's using. We're not playing hockey with wooden sticks anymore. You know, we don't have like, you know, like.
Okay, but let me ask you this, and this is what a podcast is. We can't just be nice Canadians. Maurice Richard, who is a god in Quebec and parts of Canada, first player to score 50 goals in 50 games. I think 40-ish assists. So he scored 50 goals in 50 games.
Yeah.
Is his accomplishment more impressive than Gretzky's 92 goals in 80 games? And is it more impressive than, you know, Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid scoring 40 on these fucking useless aluminum sticks that break like a Q-tip? Think about it. Or do you just go, no, because Connor McDavid would totally demolish Maurice Richard and eat him for breakfast and poop him out by 11 a.m.?
I think they're comparably impressive.
No, they're compared, but I'm just saying your idea about filmmaking, like if George Lucas used CGI for Star Wars and you worship him, you're like, he's the GOAT, but Alfred Hitchcock used like, you know, a drape and like a, you know, a match to create something. Like, I'm just like, we're moving towards the point of robotics and, you know, chips being in our brains. What you're describing, as much as it sounds, I'm not a futurist. I hate the fucking term futurist, but I'm just saying, whether you guys know it or not, you are going to have the robotics games. Like, I was at lunch today when this guy was like, he's a major financier. He was like, the expo's no problem. Talk to my family office. He's like, we're gonna take a look. He's like,
yeah.
But he was like, can I ask you a question? I was like, sure. He was like, what do you think of robotics Olympics? He's like, I want to fund robots playing sports. And I was like, well, I'm seeing two big black guys running into each other, former linebackers. I'm like, that's a sport. I'm like, I don't understand why. Yeah, that's an intense sport.
So dumb.
Well, I used to love that show on the Discovery Channel where the robots would fight each other in the arena.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've
seen
that.
Like Mech Wars or Robot Wars.
Wars, I think it was called. Yeah. So yeah, I'd be down for Robot Olympics for sure. That'd be cool.
I mean,
we might be sponsoring it.
My thought on that is I think the progression needs to be natural, and I think the progression needs to feel natural, even for the audiences, because if somebody skips that line and I don't know, and tries to Armstrong, you know, he won all these Tour de France stuff like that. All of a sudden, it turns out it wasn't skill. He was injecting shit. So,
but it was skill as well. Come on.
I mean, it is.
I'm just saying. I'm not the fact. He came back from testicular cancer.
Yes, I agree. I completely agree. But that skill puts him at the level of his peers, right? And then you have a sport, and then you have a competition.
Yeah, get everybody on that stuff.
You
and
get
then
what you guys are missing is, and this is a bit like what I learned very early on in like with professional services firms. Like, your accountant is not telling you how to pay taxes ethically. He's not telling you how to pay more taxes. He's basically there whispering in your ear, demonic, borderline, unethical, borderline, in your opinion, like as a layman, even if I studied finance, criminal. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think I need to avoid taxes to that extent. I'm like, just do it. But I'm like, because I have a conscience and because also I can't lie and I don't want to ever deal with an audit. The one time we got audited, the guy was like, it's so clean. He was like, this is ridiculous. He was like, you're making my job boring, but I want to be able not to stress. It's a very selfish thing. It's also just, I don't want the stress. But I'm like, every system is geared to be gamed, guys. Like, come on. You know, when Donald Trump won, you could call him whatever you want, but just being an objective person, when he called out Hillary Clinton, he's like, because all these people fund you, Hillary. All these people are your fucking backers. That killed Hillary. And Trump almost got like a populist man of the people, even though he said it, I use all these loopholes. So every system is geared to that. I am disgusted. I became an entrepreneur because of my disgust with humans and because of my disgust with these organizations. They sit there, they laugh at us. I'm no different. Okay, I'm the same guy I was 20 years ago. So the Olympics are sitting there going like, okay, we just, shove the it's like, just give the people what they want. They don't care if the athlete is juiced. They're not caring that their testicles are going to wither away in 5 years. They're just like, right now, Lance, open up, spread them up, and let me jam this needle in your balls because you get to tell a story, right? So I actually, in a weird way, go sunshine, disinfectant of truth. If you were to be like, do whatever the fuck you want, but disclose it, which is kind of my approach with AI and the team. I was like, I wouldn't use AI personally as a writer, but I see how it helps me. So I'm going to figure out how it makes me into like the super version of me. And then because I'm like, yeah, if I tell you don't use AI, you're going to use it. You're just not going to tell me. So I'd rather be like, how are you using it?
Yeah, it's that's the thing. It's the transparency that that bothers me. Yeah. Because if I was an athlete and I came in second, and then I realized that the first place person, was on juice, I wouldn't be like, oh well, maybe I should have taken that too. I would have been like, well, fuck this guy for taking that.
Or adjust your play. Like when I used to play sports, you knew if a guy was dirty, you just adjusted your game. He was dirty. He was like, oh, sorry, bro, and you would nunchuck you. Goalies, there was a period where goalies were showing up like, Transor Z. But I was like, you could see, well, don't shoot on his freaking shoulder pad. He's got a big Mount Rushmore here. So you said it, you nailed it. It's the transparency. I rather a future where athletes disclose what they're taking. Because if it is like, I took a Sudafed, I'm not afraid to say it. If it's illegal, And yes, I'm taking this. Like I didn't actually, but after I tore my ACL, if the doctor was like, hey, if the pain is too much, if, your physio causes you pain, take these. I'm always very careful what I take, although I take a lot of stuff I shouldn't. But I'm like, when it comes to like aspirin, I'm like, oh no. Imagine if you're an athlete and you're like, hey, I'm taking this pill that might set it, not fearing that would get you disqualified. Like, it does help the system. Now, obviously, if somebody's like, well, these steroids that they give horses before the Preakness and the Triple Crown, I'm on those. Okay, then, buddy, you're not going to play against humans. But I'm just saying, like, this delusional sense that, like, if everybody holds their hand and sings Kumbaya, then there are no, drugs in sports. It's like saying, let's go back to amateur hour. It's just not going to happen. Like,
but I think it goes a little bit beyond that, because even that has to have you have to take into account a little bit of a privilege, right? Not every single athlete in the even if they wanted to, has that sort of program backed by the Russian government to increase their athlete performance. So again, it goes back to you can make two. You can make a completely transparent, juiced up Olympics, but you need to have at least the Olympics where everyone is at least on the same level playing field.
But I think
I put it to you for example. The F1, right? F1, every single car needs to be exactly the same. NASCAR.
But that's not possible, bro. It's not possible because why would Ferrari's engine be the same? Like, let's say Ferrari. And it's weird. They go up and
they have the same limits. They have the same limits to compete within the same specs and the same weights and within the same even temperatures, right? If something is a little bit off, it's not a fair competition, and that car gets disqualified, and they lose millions of dollars because they can't participate in this specific race before changing tires or whatever they need to change, right? So I think it's that type of feeling that we need to do.
Okay, but this is let me just read you an interesting fact.
Wait, before you go, Ash, I just want to put it out to the audience because I don't think we asked the audience what they think enough.
Go for it.
Put out polls and stuff, and we're going to start doing that again. But I just want to ask the audience, anybody who's watching, if you want to leave a comment on what you think about doping in sports, especially the Olympics, leave your comment and we'll get to it later.
Okay. Let me tell you, and by the way, again, I agree with what Yvonne said, but just for the sake of entertainment, after the 2012 and 2013 F1 seasons, Lotus driver Kimi Raikkonen nearly bankrupted his team by scoring too many points. Sounds crazy, right? But here's what happened. His Lotus contract said he would be awarded 50,000 euros for every championship point he scored. Lotus added this bonus in Raikkonen's contract because they thought their car would be uncompetitive and thus the bonus would not be a problem to pay at the end of the season. But when said and done, Raikkonen scored a total of 390 points in 2012, and he equaled 20 million euros, nearly bankrupting Lotus. So what I'm telling you is, while I agree with you, Yvonne, I do think the right talisman can get a lot more out of a car, a team, and that is sports. And I'll tell you why.
I agree. Yeah.
You could be a great athlete. You get drafted by perennial loser team versus perennial winner team. How is that, if you think about it, any more or less unfair than you're an athlete and the guy across you is doing something pas très kosher? Whether it's equipment, whether it's drugs, real athletes don't care. I, as an entrepreneur, never cared if I had an uneven. You think the fucking born on third base useless kids, not the ones that are actually ambitious and get shit done. You think the useless kids that were like, my dad is this, ergo I'm this, therefore you should this, go fuck off. You're useless. Give me the born on third base kids that are driven and I can help them and they could create value. But I'm just saying that's one manifestation. So I'm just saying when it comes to athletes, real athletes don't actually care. No real athlete looks at somebody and goes, they're doping or this and that. They just understand. The same way you get a bad coach, an insecure coach, a loser coach. To quote Donald Trump, you're going to have this other stuff. I think we solved it. Transparency is the only way to go. It is. I mean, hello, let's call it line one Olympics. No, but transparency is the only way to go, because if you encourage everybody to be transparent and then somebody is still cheating, then I go banish them. It's like when your dad or mom goes, there was a fire in the backyard. There was a shoe that was lit on fire. It was your shoe. Did you have anything to do with it? You have a very clear choice to make. Either you come clean, and you might get batso, but at least your mom's like, I don't have to kill this person and bury him in the back next to the shoe. But if you lie, hey man, if she buries you in the backyard, I don't contest. You earned it, kind of thing. So I think transparency is it. I think we're done. We could go have a oyster martini. No, I'm kidding.
There is one more thing that I wanted to cover, which is the rise of the influencer athlete, because it's another age that we're living in now, where some of these athletes have a lot more influence than the organizations that they're actually
playing. I'm going to let you have this, because I think after I unload my comments on this, like the TRTC will take us down. Like I think
John, you take it away first.
I mean, but put the point. Like, what's the point? What are we discussing though?
Ivan's afraid. He's like, what is?
No. What are we discussing?
Well, I guess one of the points is like, how does the IOC, for example, manage their brand and their messaging when they have athletes that are bigger, have bigger reaches, bigger followings than they do, competing in events?
By doing exactly the same thing the NBA does and the NFL does, by playing along with the athletes. They need the athletes to get people in the doors and to get eyes on the sport. So they need to work with the athletes. The other side of this is these athletes need their social media marketing in order to get funding to go to the Olympics, and to get people to root for them and to elevate their status within their own teams or within their own sports or within their own countries even, so you get a Lindsey Vonn, right? Lindsey Vonn, if she did not make as big of a fuzz as she did about coming back, about this is my welcome back tour, and she crashed twice before, so, but if she didn't have that buildup in social media, would it really have made that much of a difference if she was or wasn't in the Olympics? I don't think so, because she had the public behind her. She's a legend. She's got the social media buildup, right? And one of the examples that you put here is Eileen Gu. She's worth like $23 million, and she got like she only gets 100K from skiing and stuff like that. It's a business. You wouldn't go after LeBron for doing that, or any other big time athlete or superstar for having their own, franchise and their own brand and stuff like that. So I think it's the same thing here. The IOC just needs to play ball with them and work with them to bring forward that message of the Olympics and the importance of the Olympics through these like superstars. And I think that's going to be the transition. I think that's what's going to happen, because the IOC can't just stand behind like, oh yeah, no, they're fun, but here's our little videos. They're a little bit of funny, they need to work with the athletes. So I think that's what's going to happen with that. And we're going to see a lot more, because they're getting younger and younger and younger
and more famous. And I'm sure you've seen
that's what they're going to do.
Jake Paul's fiance flying in on a private jet, and him breaking down in tears, crying like a baby over her victory or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, that stuff gets a lot of eyeballs now. And Ash, I know you have a lot to say about it, so go ahead.
I hope we have the 7-second delay. So I was going to make a comment about the IOC president, Kirsty Coventry, but I don't like to even criticize women, because women put up with more than enough. So I don't know her time, but I'll use Antonio Guterres, that big piece of lard masquerading as the Secretary General of the UN. Fuck them. Fuck them hard. Useless bureaucrats who fail upwards through sucking up, through a lack of principles, who just have zero principles, zero purpose. Fuck them hard. If these motherfuckers fly on the jet engines in 2025, why wouldn't the people, the athletes, be able to fly on a fucking plane? 1. 2, the world has changed again, as I say. The whole system throughout history is abuse of power, abuse of privilege, abuse of position to keep people down. And I live it right now with the expos. I've written Navigating Between a Bronfman and a Molson, even though they're both privately very happy that some other idiot is doing this. The people around them, the facilitators, the enablers, the people that perpetuate this system of bullshit, fuck them all. It does not serve people. The people are served when those people, the Kirsty Coventrys, and this motherfucker Antonio Guterres that writes a congratulatory note to the Islamic Republic, totally detached from whatever their mandate was. You think the League of Nations went down, bitch? The UN is going to be gone in a few years, but that's a separate point. So when I hear these useless people in power that consolidate power, abuse their power, keep people down. And in this case, I'm not talking about the fan at home, although they're an important stakeholder, but the athlete. Lindsey Vonn did not need to do anything. I understand why she did it from an arm's length. Same reason that after I fucking tore my ACL, went back and wanted to show myself that I wasn't just a fat lard ass. I wanted to show myself that I could still compete. And I scored 10 goals in one game at playing futsal. And I was like, okay, this is why you got hurt. You're taking this too seriously. So I don't want to hear any of these people that are not happy. It's not like the Olympics, as important as it is. And I say this about MLB, when previous people who bid on the expos totally did not read the room. They thought they were hot shit. They're useless. I'm useless. We're all nobodies, right? But they did not understand that MLB thinks they're the center of the universe, even though that MLB plays second fiddle to the NFL. MLB in that context is the center of the universe. I see that. But the Olympics, the UN, MLB, WatchMojo, we're all nobodies, right? If you don't serve your stakeholders, if you don't serve your constituents, you're part of the problem. And as far as I'm concerned, you need to just shut up or get the fuck out of the way. So when the establishment complains that these athletes who have been sacrificing, go back to the first point, who are at the mercy of the Canadian Athletics Association. I'm not knocking on them. I'm just, because I don't want to criticize some other country. When the Canadian Athletic Association, if I were to fucking audit them and be like, what the fuck are you wasting your money on? Who chooses your coaches? Who chooses your players? They would shit on themselves because they know that all of them, not Canada, they're all corrupt. It's all a bad system. So again, transparency, we solved it. The light is the biggest disinfectant. So when these people, 800-pound Antonio piece of shit Gutierrez sits there and says something, it's a vestige of the past. It will wash away, right? So more power to, and again, it sounds weird. Whenever I talk to the team, I talk to them as if I'm their agent. Because I'm like, I hope you're here permanently at WatchMojo, but I fear that WatchMojo is a état passager. It's a transient stage in your life. So I want you to learn as much, because the next person you're going to work for, although I say work with, is not going to give a damn and not tell you these things. So at least learn this. So I don't care if Jake Paul's girlfriend, I should know her name, Yuta Leardan, if she has 50 million subscribers, more power to her. She wants to show off her butt, more power to her. Because if she was in a corporation, some fucking loser would be grabbing her butt. So let her live. If Eileen Gu, all attractive, I'm not disputing that comes into play, but if Eileen Gu has the agency to run her own fucking life and not be beholden to the Antonio Guterres lard faces of the world, yeah, that's a good thing. It's the whole emancipation. The same way that I get to sit here, Ashkan Karbas Frushan, media entrepreneur, doing what I'm doing, it's because of the democratization. It's because we're washing away these old structures of power that have like held humanity back. So don't call me a revolutionary, but I'm all for it. It's the net is positive. But yes, if you're in a position of power, you don't like it, but fuck the positions of power, because they're the ones that have landed us in this mess.
Well said, Ash. I think
that could be the soundbite that I will use on my.
I like it. That's a great place to end it. And I just also like to point out in the comments that somebody thinks that Ivan has a really cool beard. So
thank you so much,
and I tend to agree. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Great episode as usual, and we'll see all of you guys next week for another one. Take care.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Cheers, guys.